Die heutige Folge hat auf vielen verschiedenen Ebenen etwas mit Begegnung zu tun. Wäre Charlotte selber nicht Elsa Gintler und Heinrich Jacobi in den 20er und 30er Jahren des letzten Jahrhunderts in Deutschland begegnet, dann hätte Charlotte vielleicht nicht die später von ihr so bezeichnete Methode der Sensory Awareness in die USA gebracht. Wäre Charlotte dort nicht Ende der 80er Jahre unserem MUX-Beirat Helmut Mills in ESALEN begegnet und wären wir Helmut Mills nicht vor 2 Jahren begegnet, dann wären Helen und ich vermutlich nicht kürzlich nach ESALEN in Kalifornien gereist. Und wir wären dort nicht JJ Jeffries begegnet, meinem heutigen Interviewgast. Ist das alles Zufall? Vielleicht, vielleicht auch nicht. Die einen nennen es Zufall, die anderen Self-Fulfilling Prophecy, wiederum andere nennen es Gesetz der Anziehung. Auch dazu später mehr und wie die Begegnung mit diesem Thema zu Heilung führen kann. JJ, mein heutiger Gast, praktiziert Sensory Awareness. Es ist und bleibt schwierig, diese Arbeit jemandem zu beschreiben, der sie nicht erlebt hat. Warum? Vermutlich, weil sie so einfach erscheint, wenn man ihr nicht selber begegnet, sie erlebt. Deswegen reden wir heute nicht nur darüber, sondern bringen dieses Erlebnis von der US-Westküste Kaliforniens zu dir über den großen Teich. JJ spricht Englisch, deswegen ist das Interview heute auf Englisch. Eine Version mit deutschen Untertiteln findest du auf YouTube.
Herzlich willkommen bei Heilen, Geheimnisse ganzheitlicher Gesundheit. Dies ist ein Podcast von MUX Health, Ihrem strategischen Partner für exklusive, ganzheitliche Gesundheit. Ganz nach dem Motto, nie zuvor konnte die Medizin so viel Gutes tun wie heute und nie zuvor hinterfragten so viele Patienten ihre Ärzte, sitzen in diesem Podcast unsere Gründer, der Internist und Strategieberater Dr. Med Christian Becker und Helen Becker, Personal Coach und New Work Expertin, mit einigen der weltweit besten Experten zum Thema Heilen zusammen und schauen hinter die Geheimnisse der neuesten medizinischen Trends, hinter altbewährte Methoden und sprechen mit Heilern, Ärzten, Wissenschaftlern, Coaches und Health-Tech-Unternehmern.
With me today is the charismatic JJ Jeffries from the famous ESALEN-Institut in Big Sur, California. I am very grateful to have had the opportunity to meet JJ as a teacher during a recent workshop there. JJ teaches in a true place of power. The ESALEN-Institut is a non-for-profit, holistic educational center offering wild comfort and space for emergent transformation and internal exploration that has been in operation since 1962. It was attended by a wide range of personalities of intellectual and cultural life in the United States, such as Henry Miller, Carl Rogers, Moshe Feldenkrais, Abraham Maslow, and Aldous Huxley. Where else but in such a place should there also be a lot of compiled wisdom on the subject of death? Welcome to our podcast, Heilen, dear JJ. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for the invitation. This is exciting. Talking across the waters.
Absolutely. JJ, the topic of death itself is not a direct focus topic of yours at the ESALEN-Institut, right? That means you don't give any extra lecture on the topic of death. However, you work on it indirectly. Can you tell us why?
Well, indirectly, actually, I do sideways approach death all the time because one of the main things around death is anxiety and fear of pain. And that's what I work with specifically in many areas. Using these methods I am doing, it's directed towards finding methods and practices to address anxiety and pain. Anxiety is just a small, very small fear of death that happens in moments. Our bodies aren't that intelligent. And when I feel anxiety, my body is responding as if I'm dying. So these are very small deaths. And this is where we really need to practice when things aren't big and looming, like death impending, and working on small pains that are in the body and that we can work with when they're smaller, not as big. Now, when we're at the doorway to death, it's another thing, of course, because everything's gotten really big and scary, but we can work with that as well.
I understand. And how does your sensory awareness chakra meditation assist in better managing anxiety and even fear of death?
Yes, good question. Well, the intention of the meditation is, first of all, to notice the sensations in our body and how they sequence. I use the chakras as a template to follow through the bodies to find out the different areas where pain and fear or joy, I'm not just focusing on pain and fear, will reside, because this is how we get a vocabulary for what's happening in our body. The more we know our bodies, the less we have to fear of death, because death starts sending signals to the body and we don't know what to do with it. And sometimes in death, in the fear of death, we are holding on to pain and fear. We're holding on to it. And these are holding on to the sensations in the body. Before emotions, we have sensations in the body, which we are not usually aware of, these small sensations that are sequencing all over our body. So when I bring my attention to the sensation, let's call sensations and pain and fear, this is all energy. It's all energy. So when I focus on the sensation of the pain or whatever's happening in my body, I'm in effect allowing it to release, because as I look at it and just be with that sensation, that pain, it will help it relax, because part of the pain and the fear staying there is me holding on to it. By trying to get rid of it, I'm holding on to it. I'm clutching it. So this helps us release. Does that help a little bit with your question?
Yes, absolutely. And can you explain a little bit what chakra means?
The chakras from a lot of different traditions, mostly the Indian tradition. Of course, there's an American form of it, but they are energy centers in the body. As they move up through the body, they address different aspects of ourselves. Some people are familiar with Maslow's hierarchy of needs. You can look at that as a chakra. Those are basic, the root chakra, which is at the base of our spine. This is our life and breath and energy. These are the basic needs. Without these, we can't survive. Moving up to the navel, which deals with things such as emotions and fears and safety and other things. Of course, there's hundreds and many things associated with these, as well as colors and mandalas, shapes. And of course, it goes up to the heart, the solar plexus, which is power and willpower, the heart, of course, love, compassion, pain and sorrow, throat, creativity, expression, third eye, wisdom and intuition, the crown of the head, which is our joy and bliss, and a transpersonal point. So these are energy centers in the body that many traditions have found and focused on and built many traditions around them. As many as you can think of, there are traditions around the chakra points.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Thank you very much. When I myself participated in your chakra meditation, you had a guitar with you. I love guitar music. From your point of view, does it have a specific effect in connection with your sensory awareness technique?
Yes, thank you for reminding me. Each chakra also has a tonal center of resonance. Again, music is vibration, goes back to energy, another type of energy. So as I play the guitar, I have composed these musics to the key of the different chakras. And this is the American or the English-speaking version of the chakras. So I go up through the scales with my guitar, and I'll have a different composition for each chakra. And these are designed to help relax the body, invite flow, and remove blocks. And it also gives the mind something to focus on. Instead of focusing on what this means or getting us out of our bodies, the music invites us again to reside in the body and relax the mind so we can fully participate. And the mind's job is only to locate and find sensation.
Could you give us a little example on your guitar?
Yes, I'd be happy to. Let's go ahead and get started. I will be starting with our throat chakra. sculpted into sound. Here we have the choice of witnessing, following sensation, and the body's automatic functions, though they will happen without our intention. As you bring the throat into your awareness now, notice swallowing and breath. Notice how they change or stay the same. Allow opening, allow breath.
Thank you.
There we have it.
Thank you very much. It's fantastic. It's on Spotify as well, right? And you can buy it.
Yes, you can buy it or listen to it for free. Enjoy it.
It's fantastic. Thank you very much for sharing this with us. JJ, what is it about your Dance Away class? I read about it.
Oh, you haven't taken it yet. Okay, well, Dance Away. You know, I say dance, but it's not, the first intention is not dance. It's about how we connect without words. But dance is one way I use of making it less risky. So all connection involves risk and vulnerability. And we do that all the time in life, usually by saying our name, where we're from, and what we do, because it's safer to do that. But really, we all want to connect on a deeper level and feel it in our body. And the body is usually doing this. You know, when we shake hands, it seems very innocuous and quick. But in that shaking of hands, I'm looking at your face, whether you're smiling, whether you move towards me. I want to know if you're going to reject me or not. And when I take that hand and shake it, I do it fast and let it go. That way, I don't have to feel the activation of the fear of rejection. So I do it very quickly. So what I do in the Dance Awake, I've kind of looked a lot of how we connect, you know, attachment theory and how we connect as babies. You know, a lot of it is mirroring. We find safety when we follow each other. So I have exercises where we mirror each other's movements a lot. We've been doing that since we were babies, watching the mother, and she makes a face and we make one back. If you follow what I'm doing, then I find that you are safe. And I start to connect on a deeper level. And I use the music because, again, just like the meditation, the music gives us something to focus on. And usually it's music that I'm sure that most people will recognize. So they relax a little. And then I give little suggestions to help them relax. Like I'll say, are you doing it right? And they'll start laughing. Then I'll say, well, how do you do it wrong? Which is ridiculous because there's no right or wrong way in moving and connecting. But we have these ideas that we have to be serious and that we have to show up in a certain way in order to get love and connection. And so through these movements, I keep getting a little deeper. Then I explore distance. This is another thing we use for connection. How close do we get? Not that closer is better, but I need to know where my edge is, because then I know an appropriate risk to take. And how do I know something is risky? That's what the chakra meditation prepares us for. I know it's risky by looking in my body, not my mind. My body will tell me if I'm too close, if I'm paying attention. So then I won't take unnecessary risks that can get me into trouble. And finally, we'll start making a visceral connection where we take hands. That's a big deal. Our hands are antennae when we do that. But once we get to that point, there's a lot more safety and connection. If I'm holding your hand, we've achieved a certain level. So I invite this. Of course, I always give people options of not doing it in different ways of doing it in case it's too activating. And then after the hands, then we'll come into something called eye connection. Now, eye gazing is not, it's very well known, but I think what is not realized through eye gazing, if we are not in a certain amount of connection first, eye gazing is actually dangerous and overflowing for us. We can't hold that. So we want to take just short glimpses and take a look and take care of ourselves, because if I keep my eyes open for you, then I lose connection to myself and to you both. So always respect the wisdom of the body, and then take little risks that are manageable, that you know aren't going to be too scary and should have a good outcome. And by this time, the music's gotten a little more fun and more open, and we have a very good time. People are laughing, and what they are doing in this state, they are surrendering. This is the thing we hear, surrendering, but how does surrendering show up in the body? This is how the mind finally lets go of how this should be and enters into the agreement, we're going to have fun. And the mind recedes, and we just follow and come into this thing called play. Play and release are very, very closely related. And from that point, we'll get into deeper connection, and we can go on with that. That's the basic form of it.
Thank you for telling us about it. I believe that it would be very beneficial for doctors, for physicians, and patients, and the interaction between them to have a more playful interaction, actually. I would love to see doctors getting trained with your Dance Awake class, and I believe they would benefit. Do you remember a very special encounter at the ESALEN-Institut?
Oh, you mean for me to pick a special encounter?
Yeah,
yes.
Yeah, something like that.
There's the one for the Dance Awake. Joan Baez, a well-known musician, actually lived at ESALEN before it was ESALEN. She was renting a little cottage there, and she wasn't famous yet. But when she got famous, she loved ESALEN. She came every year for her birthday. And she had come, and usually somebody is helping her with small things, and her niece asked me to attend to her needs. So she came to the Dance Awake class. And Joan is a very, very powerful, wonderful human being. I don't pretend to know everything about her, but we had a nice encounter. We started doing the Dance Awake, and she started enjoying it. And then we came together, and we were moving together. And then we made the connection with the hands. We were looking at each other's eyes, and it was playful already. It was a little playful and a little challenging. We were challenging each other. And we grabbed each other's hands, and Joan is a very powerful, wonderful person, and not one to just fall in normal roles. And she's starting to try to lead me. And I said, oh, okay, this is the game. So I started to struggle with her. I tried to lead myself in a playful way, and we were wrestling with each other. We fell on the floor. We're rolling around. People are aghast and gasping and worried, and we are just laughing. We're having so much fun in that interaction of the push and pull. So that is one wonderful experience I had with someone of specific known around the world.
Fantastic story. Thank you. The ESALEN-Institut is a not medical clinic. It's not a medical clinic. And yet people describe again and again that they have felt deep inner healing after a stay at ESALEN. Have you also observed something like that?
You mean for me personally?
Either for you
or
personally or for people coming to your institute?
Oh, hundreds of times. There are so many people that come with so many modalities that haven't been tested by science yet. Of course, science is our new religion. Until science can test it and say it works, we can be very skeptical about it. But ESALEN is a place where we bring science and these alternative traditions together that also provide healing. People know they have healing because we can feel it. So I see over and over and over people coming and taking workshops and all sorts of things like EMDR and kinesiology, and the list goes on and on and on. And people find healing. And I think also ESALEN teaches them that they can heal themselves. As they come here to this beautiful place, I think it allows us to release our hold on that we are sick or that we are injured or there's something wrong with us. It allows us to feel all the good things as well. It changes our focus from I am an injured or a person in pain to I'm a person who can feel joy and delve into life while I'm also having pain. But I'm not identified as a pain person or a person who is injured.
So this is a totally different definition of healing. It's not only about cure, right? It's also about, or even more, it's about healing. And thank you. What do you think is the secret sauce of the ESALEN-Institut for that? For healing people, basically. And what do you think?
Yes. Oh, yes. As I said a little bit before, as you come to ESALEN, it provides everything for you. Again, I will bring in Abraham Maslow again, hierarchy of needs. Your food and shelter is taken care of. You don't have to go to work. Most people aren't using their devices. And it's beautiful. It's in the middle of nowhere on the edge of the ocean with hot springs, healing springs, mineral springs, cantilevered 100 feet above the ocean. And everybody there has agreed to do something different. Everybody has agreed to do something risky, to believe something a little maybe unbelievable. So we have the support as well. So you have support with people. So you're willing to take risks you normally wouldn't. And ESALEN invites you to unfold and relax and not focus on what is wrong, but focus on what is possible.
One of our patients with cancer recently told us in tears how difficult it was for him to keep in touch with his friends. They constantly avoid him. His tennis partner suddenly no longer has time. He's no longer invited to dinner by his friends. What is going on from your point of view? And do you have any tips to improve the situation for him?
Well, what is going on is our fear of death, and we don't know how to relate to it. So even our closest friends want to give consolation, but we want to do something about it. What happens when I'm with someone who is dying, I get to feel and be activated about my own personal impending death. And that can frighten me. And if I can't fix him and I can't stop the pain, I get so activated, I can't be around it. So I go away. And unfortunately, it kind of tells you the measure of some of the friendships, and it also some compassion for people who just don't know how to do it. So the tips I would have, one, if the friends do come, tell them how they can be there. We need to teach them how to be with death, with my death. I don't need you to fix me. I don't need you to say it's okay. I just want you to be with me. Let's do what we always do. Let's play cards. Let's look at each other. Let's tell stories of the past without any reference to death. Your close friends, they should be able to reference death and use this as a way of celebration in the next passage, but that's a big leap. Most of people don't have that awareness. For yourself, noticing if this gets to the point where it's already happened, how do you find your own joy and your own solace, in where I'm at right now. Because there are other people there who are experiencing this. You might also have to make new friends, people who can identify with what you're going through. If you're at hospice, of course, you have a lot of that. So there's also support groups all over the place for things like this. People, again, who know how to lead, how to be with death, to teach you how to talk to people who are afraid of death. Those are some of my tips. But mostly, keep finding joy in your life, even in the pain of the cancer or whatever it is. Don't look at yourself as a cancer person that's going to die. I happen to have cancer and I will die. I'm sure I have something now and I will die. Just that yours is more impending. Also, let yourself notice the small joys, the flowers, the nature, the music you listen to. You can still find the small joys because we have a tendency to succumb to death, to see yourself as a dying person, and we don't allow any more joy in. Mm-hmm. So that's super important.
Yeah, I can imagine. I could also imagine that like the law of attraction comes in there. Like if a person who is in fear of death doesn't send out any positive energy, right? And other people would feel this, let's say, a negative energy and wouldn't like to stay with this person because they just feel bad, right? What do you think about that?
Really good point. Really good point. You have to, of course, be resourced and ready to help others. And if you are in the place where you are attacking yourself in judgment that I am a dying person, then it is going to be even harder for them to be around. As you mentioned, law of attraction. Yes, this is super powerful. Law of attraction says what you focus on, you get more of. So if I'm focusing on myself being a person in pain that's dying, I invite more of that in. Whereas if I focus on what is good out there, because there's always something good, there's always something hopeful, and it brings more in. It's energetically invites more in. It's a very powerful thing. And that's all you have to do. And it's not involving the mind so much. It's involving another intelligence. The intelligence of healing comes from law of attraction. As I feel I can be a person that can heal and I can find healing, I allow more to come in.
And again, there a place like ESALEN where you can try out everything could be very helpful, right? Like being open to act in totally different ways and to play with the law of attraction, and could be very beneficial in addition, right?
Yes.
Let's talk about the future, possibly an unusual topic for someone who likes to live in the here and now, right?
Well, and the future is, you can only have the here and now if there's future and past to compare it to.
Correct. So what has changed over the last few years in the motivations to participate in holistic workshops like at the ESALEN-Institut, and where do you see the future trends in your field?
For me personally, what I've noticed, the most powerful thing right now is I work with lots of groups around, they come to ESALEN and they get so inspired, they get so opened up. But the fear is when they leave ESALEN, they will lose it. They think ESALEN downloads this into them and that they have to come to ESALEN to have these things. Now, ESALEN makes it a lot easier. So that I attend to this fear by looking at practices. That's why we have practices in life, whether meditation or yoga. It's a way of keeping aware and keeping in the here and now and finding practices that give us more of what we want. What I find, I have a different approach to practices, which in the short form is practices need to be designed around what I'm wanting. I think the difficulty with practices, you kind of enter the hard stuff first. And you're usually entering somebody else's practice. I mean, meditation is wonderful, but it doesn't address you specifically. It addresses a group of people that tend to have these certain things we struggle with, and that's great. But why not build a practice on something that's specifically for me? Everything about it is for me and what I want. And a practice doesn't have to be sitting in a room meditating with a candle. A practice can be walking. It could be running. It can be being in nature. It could be music. It can be anything. And it needs to be many things, not going to be just one. So a practice is built around this body, not the mind thinking I should do something, but the body saying, yes, I want that. So that's where I think we need to start. And I will do it very short. I'll do it for a minute at a time, 20 or 30 times a day, instead of a 2-hour practice. Because if we start with a struggle, then after a while, the body says, I don't like this. It doesn't feel good. And I'm not getting what I want right now. And the practice will drift away. Whereas if we just do the 1-minute exercises, what we're doing is building trust with the body that this is a practice we want. It's habit formation with awareness. So I can get more into that, but don't want to take up too much time around it. But that's my kind of growing edge right now around practices and building new practices that I think are more accessible, especially to Western civilization.
Yeah, I can imagine. The same when I went to the gym the very first time. I did too much and then I stopped, and I had to learn that small steps are much better than doing too much at the very first time. What would you initiate next if only it could be successful and laws or other frameworks did not restrict you at all? What would you do?
For myself, what would I do?
For yourself and for others. If you could do everything you could imagine for healing, for example, right?
I hate to harp on it, but I think the practice I've talked about has been the most healing thing for me. That law of attractions, every moment I can, I'm looking for what I want. When I have a negative thought, that thought is created. Not much reality around it. I may as well create the most wonderful thing. So I envision in the moment, not something I'm going to get in the future, but in the moment, how do I get what I want right now? And how do I do that through the body? That is definitely the most impactful and healing thing for me, because I believe I'm healthy. I have what I want. And problems, the small problems tend to go away once I have this vision of what I want.
What do you wish with all your heart for your participants and other people with fear, and especially fear of death?
Oh, that's let me chew on that a while. I'm not going to have that come straight from my mind. I will use my body for this one. When I feel into that, what I wish for them is be able to be with the curiosity and possibility of being with life in the world, and the curiosity that life doesn't stop with death. The realization, the belief instead of death being the end, having that belief that death could be the most wonderful next step. That is equally as possible as the impending painful death. Yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. And you have a smile on your face very often. The listeners here will just have to take my word for it. Which topics should be laughed about more? Which topics should be seen more easily?
Oh, which topic should be seen? Taking myself seriously. Taking myself seriously gets in the way of a lot of things. So I laugh at myself a lot.
Finally, we would like to invite you to share tips and tricks with our listeners. Do you feel like it?
Sure. Again, coming back to that law of attraction, looking for what we want. Again, looking at, we all have inner critics and we all have negative thoughts, be careful of the belief that if I get rid of everything that's painful in my life, then I'll get what I want. That attracts more pain. That's the law of attraction. Focus instead on what you want. And that's going to change all the time. What you want is 1,000 different things. It's not that you get exactly what you want, but by looking for what you want, you will get more of it. So when you have that negative thought, to be fair, bring in the balancing thought of, okay, I could also have the most incredible thought. If I'm don't have any proof, why not make up what I want? So that's one tip and trick I do. Another tip and trick I do is I do a lot of movement. The body is meant to move. If we stop moving, we die. All these problems in our bodies these days is too much sitting, scrunching over, being in cars. So find ways, even if you're sitting or moving, bring more movement into your sitting. In the car, you can shift a little, so when you're walking, use your hips and your arms as well, not just your feet from walking to point A or point B. Bring a little swing in your walk. So keep that movement going. So that's why I do these movement practices. Everything is about moving. When we were hunter and gatherers, we didn't sit very often at all. Now we're in a new place and we have to bring movement back into our life. And smile. Even if you don't feel like it, sometimes smiling will invite the feeling, which is paradoxical but true. Your mind will respond to what your body's doing.
So there might be people here listening who have fear of death or even are close to death, possibly. So what I understood here is that they should start smiling with a little bit, and then it could become even more. It could become laughing, and they could also think about death as a potential, right? Like as a potentially great experience. We all don't know, but we hope that this could be a wonderful experience for us. And moving is good. Even though a person would lie in the bed, it could be better to move a little bit, to sense into the body, to feel the muscles, to feel the skin where the body is lying on, and to feel into the chakra. And the chakra meditation could be something that every listener could use, even in such a specific situation, unusual situation, right? Should our podcast listeners want to try sensory awareness for better coping with stress and anxiety, what should they look for in the provider besides listening to your wonderful chakra meditation, of course?
They've found, if you like science, they've looked at therapies and how people heal. And the most important thing is how connected we are to the person. Because part of healing is trust that we can heal. If my provider is not giving me a signal that I can trust them, that they don't connect with me deeply, look into my eyes, come close to me, and really care. If you feel they care, you need to feel that this person is caring. Trust that feeling. And that's where I would start from, because it's not so much the practice sometimes, but it's the quality of connection. That is the most important thing in healing, pretty much everything, really. But I will say in healing really specifically, because even if this person's the most skilled in the world, you have to believe you can heal. And if he's not helping you with that, I think it's going to be a harder journey.
Mm-hmm. And what do you think can affected persons, or more important, relatives or friends, do themselves when they notice that a person has fear or anxiety about death a lot? What do you think? Like, what could relatives or friends do for them?
Yes. So first of all, notice your own activation, your uncomfortableness. Be willing to be uncomfortable, because it's scary to be around death and pain. So see if you can allow yourself just to put that to the side a little bit and just pretend like they are that person you knew before and relate to them the same way. Don't change anything. Don't get more quiet. Don't get more hesitant. Don't say, oh, poor you, poor you, poor you, because you are just reinforcing the message that there's something wrong with them. Mm-hmm. What they want is things to be the same and safe a little. They need that quality of connection they had with you before. They don't want a different connection. They want the old connection that, yes, I like you as who you are, whether you're going to die or whether you're in pain. I like who you are, not who I judge you to be. You're not a person dying. You're not a person in pain. You're my friend, my brother, my sister. You're the person. And here I am to be with you in the same ways we were before.
Great. And finally, please complete this sentence. It is especially important to me that comes across in this podcast.
It is especially important to me that we always look for what we want in this podcast. And I think everything will follow that. Following my joy, or Joseph Campbell said, follow your bliss, a great sage and master in this belief and law of attraction. So yes, that's what I would say. If nothing else comes across, that's very easy to keep looking for what you want without any special instructions or CDs or doctors or anything.
In any case, I wish that you, dear listener, got the desire to deal with the topic of death a little more, because then a life full of well-being could become really possible. Thank you, JJ, for being with us today. I hope we will meet again soon and listen to your voice, the sound of the ocean, your guitar, with a beautiful view of the Pacific on the coast of California. Thank you, JJ.
Thank you, Christian. I really enjoyed the time, and you helped me learn more by just bringing this out into the open and examining it.
Thank you very much, JJ. This was wonderful. Bye-bye.
Bye for now.
Das war der Podcast Heilen, Geheimnisse ganzheitlicher Gesundheit. Ein Podcast von MUX Health. Vielen Dank, dass Sie heute dabei waren. Mehr Informationen finden Sie auf der Webseite www.mux.health. Abonnieren Sie diesen Podcast und teilen Sie ihn mit Menschen, die das Thema interessiert oder die davon profitieren. Damit helfen Sie, den Podcast in die Welt zu tragen und noch mehr Menschen auf ihrem Weg zur Heilung zu unterstützen. Über eine positive Bewertung freuen wir uns. Alle Links zur Folge finden Sie in den Shownotes.